Okay, well, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I have decided to record a video explaining my music process. Yeah, that's a good intro. I want to lower this down. That's not good. Please just go. There we go. Cool. Okay. No one saw that. Didn't mess up at all. In fact, let's bring you a closer. Okay. So we're going to be playing some piano. Okay, so normally when I'm creating a song, I normally just spend about 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes just messing around on the piano. Or anything for that matter. Sometimes I just take out GarageBand on my iPad or on my phone, wherever I am, and I just start messing around with chords. Sometimes the sound of the instrument I'm using inspires me to play something. It's important just to find a sound that I kind of like and then see if I can come up with some melody or some chords. Once I find a sound that's inspiring, or maybe I don't find a sound that's inspiring and I stick to piano, either way, I immediately go, okay, what kind of chords am I going to use? You know, what's my chord progression? I normally don't start out with the melody just because I find it harder to shape your chords around your melody than to just have chords and then create a melody, if that makes sense. When you create a melody first, then you have to consider how to harmonize that melody. Harmonizing is not my strong suit, nor is explaining music theory. That's why I just mess around until I get something that sounds good. But if you're really good at harmonizing, you can create a melody and then create the chords. But if you're not, then I would just suggest, like, start with the chords or start with a key. So that's something, you know, I mess around. And sometimes I start really simple. Like, if all you know are the chords of the major scale, it's okay just to mess around with those. So let me just go to the piano. Maybe we just want to play piano, you know? I just... My point is, I just, you know, play some chords. You know, I'm not gonna instantly, when I start playing, I'm not gonna come up with something. Normally it takes me a few minutes to get something. I keep messing around until I get something. So I used to, when I was creating a song, I used to pick a key, like A minor or C major. It was almost always those two because those two are just the white keys on the piano and it makes it a lot easier to play. Now that I have kind of moved away from that, I have started to do a process that's more chaotic, I would say. I just, you know, randomly play chords until I get something that I'm like, sounds pretty good. I don't really consider what key I'm in. I don't really consider, you know, what the chord progression is. Like, am I going from dominant to tonic to, you know, I don't really, yeah, I'm not the best. I don't really think that hard about the music theory. I just smash stuff together until it sounds good. But I guess what my point is, if you don't know where to start, learn C major, learn the chords of C major, mess around with it. If you know a lot of chords, but you don't know how to get started or don't know how to use them, you can go and look up all of the music theory behind it, like why does this chord sound good with this chord, or what are some common chord progressions. Or you can do my method, which is just keep playing chords until you find something that you really like. Let's say you find a chord progression that you really like, or some sound that has inspired a chord progression or something. I try to add in melody, things to make it different. So instead of going, I might play something like, where I'm adding like this top part. On top of the chords, or maybe I just like change the notes at different times. So like, you know, just something like that. We're not just having a chord, but we have the chord and the counter melody on top, kind of. I don't really know what to call it, but I'm gonna call it a counter melody. So when I'm creating a chord progression, sometimes I just start out with the chords. I just find all the chords that I want, like C major 7, F major 7, E minor 7, D minor 7. But sometimes I instead go, that's not interesting enough, I need to add rhythm into it while I'm figuring out what the chords are. So in this case, I decided the melody was going to be kind of simple, at least for the chord progression. I came up with the 7th chord that I liked, this A minor 7, and I went, what if I went 7th chord, then I played the 7th right before I moved on to the next chord. It's pretty simple enough. So it ended up sounding like this. So you get this bum, bum, bum. Kind of, that's kind of the chord progression I've come up with. So then I'm like, okay, so I've got my first chord and my second chord. Cool. I'm not going to add any melody or any rhythm to the second chord. Instead, I'm going to move on to the third chord. And if you don't know what next chord to play, like I think when I was doing it, I was like, I like that. And then I went, okay, what can go after that? And all I did was, I'm going to set this in my lap. All I did was, there's the C major 7, and there's the F major 7. How does it sound with G7? Didn't really like that. Okay. A minor 7 sounds okay. It's okay. It sounds a little bit repetitive. Maybe I should change things up. Maybe go for a chord that has less similar notes. So I go. Interesting, I like that sound. So this is basically the process that happened. I went, ooh, I kind of like that. We're going from C to F to E. So now I've got that mapped out. So now my question is, where's the next chord? And I do the same process. I keep repeating. And I like this kind of downward motion. So we're going C, F, E, D. So to me, I hear that next note. Sometimes I go, oh, I can hear a melody in my head, or I can hear a chord in my head, but what is that chord? I'll sing it, or it's kind of hard to sing a chord, but I'll go, so like if I'm playing this, what is that note? C. Wasn't the chord I was hearing though in my head. So maybe what notes am I singing? I should hear the notes that I'm singing. Ba. I'm singing the 7th. Oh, so I'm going ba, ba, da 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 da. That's the 7th. And so when I go da, that note is C, but I'm singing the 7th in all these chords. So maybe I should see what chord has the 7th, and D, F, A, C. D minor 7 has that C in the 7th. So let's play that together. That's the C major 7, F major 7, E minor 7, D minor 7. And that sounds like the chord I was hearing in my head. See how I heard that note, but it was in this chord. So once I find those chords, along the way, I was adding that, at the beginning I was adding that melody where I was like, so I go, bum, 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 that melody, I'm like, okay, what if I repeat it? I just go bum, 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 right? So I do that. Sounds pretty good. When I actually recorded the chord progression, I changed that last one from an upbeat to just on the downbeat, that last rhythmic note. So I go bum and one, bum for one. So just change up the rhythm even more, make it a little more interesting. So now that I've come up with that, here's what it sounds like. I'm gonna put the metronome on, just so it's easier to hear where the beat is. So, we have our chord progression. Yay. So, now the question becomes, I just closed out of the song. Now the question becomes, what do we do next? What do we create next? So then normally, at this stage, I'm like, I have something, so let's see what I can add to it. I normally go for just kind of a lead, like a melody, because it's kind of easy. You just created the chords, so it should be easy to know what notes will and will not sound good. For example, if you're creating a melody and you know your first chord is C major 7, C, E, G, B, maybe don't play F, you know? It just doesn't sound very good, you know? And there's a reason for that if you look into the music theory. But the point is, once you've created your chords, you'll know, for the most part, what notes will go with it. And that's not saying, like, you can only play the notes that are in the chords. You don't have to do that. But the point is, now that you have the chords, it's easy to hear what does and does not sound good. So, we're moving on to the next stage, which in this case is melody. That's what I normally do. I go chords to melody. It's just the way I do it. Just how I've done it. Cat hair. How is there cat hair on that? But I have the chords, and now I want to come up with a melody. I want to come up with a melody. So I add another track to my song. You can see I already have a bunch of tracks on this song. Well, not a bunch. I have 4. But I've already added another one, right? And I go, okay, so I've added this other one. Now I have 2 tracks on my song, but I don't want it to be the same sound, because that's not what I'm going for. I want something new. I want something different. I want something interesting that adds to the chords and the sound that I already have. So I go through the library again to find something that fits, but also is inspiring in what I'm looking for this song. Here, the one that I picked out. This one's called Retro Lead. Whoa. And apparently it's a mono one, so I can't play chords on it, but you can play notes on it. And it still has that like harsh stinging sound, but you can hear it's a completely different sound than what we had earlier, right? It's not that same sound. So I'm like, okay, I kind of like this. I think it goes well together. So let's just play the chords on loop. Normally when I'm doing this, I just have the chords looped all the way throughout the song, and then leave this entire track blank, and then I'm basically just going to record. In fact, normally I don't. I take back what I said. I don't record, I just hit play. I start at the very beginning of the song, and I go, and I tap on this sound that I have, and then I just press play. And while it's looping, while that is looping, I just mess around until I get a melody. So in this case, I messed around until finally this came out, this melody. You can see that I came up with a melody that I liked, and I just looped it as well. I do a lot of loops. I don't normally like change things up every single measure or every single set. I normally add something new or make something interesting make something different so that it's interesting, so it's not just like repetitive in my music. But in this case, I do use a lot of loops. I do just loop a lot of things. So in this case, I've looped my melody. I'm like, cool, I like that. Now I'm just gonna listen to the melody and the chords looped, and I'm gonna come up with, maybe I wanna come up with drums, maybe I wanna come up with a counter harmony, maybe I wanna come up with a counter melody. In this case, I decided kind of like a lower sound would be good, or just anything anything that's played more in the bass range. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a low, deep sound. It just needs to be played in the bass, because I have a lot of high notes, and a lot of the music is just higher. So I need something to balance it out. So I decide, let's go with something lower. Maybe I make a bass rhythm. I don't know. So I find I find a sound that I like. So I go through the library again, and I found this sound. It's more of like it has a different sound, but it still fits. All of these they almost fit a little bit too well, maybe, I don't know. It's all up to personal preference, but the point is you have another sound now. And so now I'm like, okay, maybe a counter harmony. And if I'm creating a counter harmony, normally it's the same chords, just a different rhythm. Yeah, normally just a different rhythm, played in a different order, something like that. So instead of just going and playing the block chord, I add rhythm to it. So I go bum, bum, bum. The point is, I'm adding something interesting. It's a little bit different than what we heard earlier. It's another layer to this song. So now that I've done that, and you'll notice I don't use the 7th, because I think it would be overpowered to just use the 7th again. It doesn't. I like the way it sounds in this case without it. So I added that in. So to make that track there more interesting, those chords that I've added underneath, I've added an interesting rhythm that changes halfway through. So I believe it goes bum, 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 bum. And then instead of doing the same melody, I just moved that second note earlier. So instead of bum, 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 instead of bum, 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 it becomes bum, 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 bum. You can kind of hear it. It's kind of hard to hear, but basically you can hear that I'm trying to make things interesting. I'm trying to always keep the listener like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, there's something different there. Oh, there's something interesting there. Oh, what is that I'm hearing? You always want to keep the listener interested. You don't want them to be bored by repetitive music. Not that playing the same thing over and over again is bad, but if it becomes too repetitive, it can disinterest the listener. It just adds a little something. Cool. So now I have that down. Now is the hard part. I have to add drums. And you can tell that I haven't, well, I say hard part. It's hard for me because I'm not a drummer. I don't know what drum is supposed to go where. I've learned where to put them. You learn to get better at, like, okay, normally the kick drum, the bass, goes on 1, so it's boom, ka, boom, boom, ka, boom, ka, boom, boom, ka, something like that. So you have this bass drum, kick drum, something solid sounding on solid beats. It doesn't necessarily have to be, like, again, these are all like rules that I come up with for myself that help me, but you don't have to. Like, you'll hear songs where I will, intentionally put the kick drum off beat. It'll be boom, k, boom, k, boom, k, boom, k. And so it feels a little odd, but it adds, you know, texture. It makes the song more interesting. So, you know, once you learn, like, in general, it goes boom, ka, or boom, ka, boom, ka. You know, just any of these, like, generic rhythms, you can alter them to make them more interesting, to make them unique to yourself. When I'm this far into a song and I need drums, I go, okay, let me just play the song, and not necessarily beatbox, but I'm just gonna, you know, clap out a beat or snap out a beat until I find a rhythm or some kind of beat that I really like. I'm gonna turn the volume down a little bit. Dun, 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 dun. I'm gonna listen to the song at least once just to get it in my head. You know, just a loop. You know, that sounds pretty interesting. You know, I just add like boom, boom, got boom, 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 got boom, 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 got boom, 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 got boom, 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 got boom, 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 got boom, 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 got boom, got boom, got. You know, something interesting like that. You know, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not gonna say that I do, but at least I've found something that might work. You know, this is just my process of creating a song. So I've found something I like. Maybe it's as simple as boom, ka, 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 boom, ka. You know, it can be something really simple. Although I will say, adding some interesting beats in does make your music not necessarily better. It just makes your music a different texture. It completely changes your music when you do go for more complex rhythms. But you have to be careful. There is a caveat to that. When you do more complex drum rhythms, or just any rhythms in general, it might not always sound good together. If you have really complex rhythms, they can sound really cool, or it can really hurt your music because it's confusing to the listener. So you just have to be careful. If you're adding like beats in, or oftentimes I'll draw the drums in because I don't want to play them. Sometimes it's just easier to just draw all the notes that I want in because I know where they're going. I know it's 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. So I can just draw them in. I guess what my point is if you're drawing them in, it's a lot easier to just go, ooh, what if I just added this random 30-second note in here? Or, ooh, what if I added this 16th rhythm that'll throw off the listener? Like, I add complex rhythms sparingly. So, let me give you an example, actually. I'm gonna solo the drums. So, this is what the drums sound like in this other song. So you can hear how the complex rhythms accent the music. It's not there to be like, ooh, listen, here's the drums, here's the music, listen to the drums, this is cool. It's intertwined with the music in a way that makes it sound interesting, makes it sound good. Good is subjective. I need to stop saying that when we're talking about music. It doesn't make it sound good, it makes it sound intricate, it makes it sound different. So, I have this drum rhythm, you know, and I go, and it started out with a boom, cut, 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 boom. A very simple, like, just drum, drum, drum. And then I was like, what if I added something interesting? Drum, cut, drum, cut, drum, drum, cut, drum, You know, so you just come up with these like rhythms, and oftentimes I'm singing it. I'm just like boom, boom, cut, boom, cut, boom, boom, cut, boom, cut, boom. You know, not a drummer. Not saying this is how you're actually supposed to do it. But this is the way I do it, and eventually I come up with something that sounds decent enough to throw on top of a song, or throw into a song. We're not keeping them separate, we're putting them together. I'm gonna listen one more time, see if I can come up with some drums. Boom, cut, boom, 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 cut, boom, cut. Yeah, I don't know. I just mess around until I get something. I'll keep singing. I'll keep messing around until I'm like, okay, I kind of like this drum beat. Normally I use a drum pad. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, that's what it's called. Man, expert musician. In this instance, I have LinnDrum because that's the drum sound name that I used for the last song that I just showed you. And I go, cool. Sounds pretty good. Sounds good enough. Often you might go through these sounds and you'll go, ooh, I really like that, or I really don't like that. And, you know, you can go through, but it's kind of hard for me to, like, differentiate between all of them. Like the kick drum sounds the same to me. This I guess bass drum. This bass drum sounds the same to me. You know, it's like there's minor differences, and I don't find it that valuable to go through all the drums. So once I find a drum set that I'm like, sounds good enough to me, I'm not sure if it'll be the best, but works for me, I play the rhythm a few times before I record it, or I can draw it in. You know, if I figure it out well enough to go, it's 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1, a 2, 1 and 2, then I can create, then I can just draw it out. That's pretty much all I do for drums. That's pretty much it. You can like change the bit crush, the drive, the low cut, the high cut on some of these. But I pretty much just leave it. You know, I did on the last song, I actually did make it different. I was like, I feel like I've used this sound before, but I wanted it to sound different this time than when it was earlier. So to make it more interesting, I did add some crush and some drive. Okay, cool. So we have drums, we have melody, maybe a counter harmony or a counter melody, and we have chords. Now it's just about repeating that process, maybe using some of the same sounds and creating different chords, different melodies, different counter melodies and counter harmonies and different drum beats, or adding in different sounds to create different sections of the song. So you've created, you create this longer chunk of music rather than just these 4 loops now that I'm gonna have. You find a way to make different sections of the song. And when I'm doing this, I don't really think about, I'm doing verse, now I'm doing the chorus, now I'm doing a verse again, now I'm doing a bridge, now I'm doing a chorus. Okay, so this is me from the future, just clarifying something. So when I'm creating a song, I actually do think a little bit about the sections that I'm creating. I know I kind of want 3 sections in every song, an A, a B, and a C section. Normally I follow a pattern of A, B, A, C, B, where A is the verse, B is the chorus, and C is almost a bridge. So I normally go verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. So I did lie a little bit there earlier. You do want to keep in mind that you are creating these 3 sections and you're putting them in an order that makes sense. You don't want to create an A, B, and a C section and then have a song that's A, B, C, because that format would be very weird and very repetitive. So I just wanted to clarify that up. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled program. So, I've created like an A section. I go, cool, I like that. Now I need to change it up. And I'm going to completely change it up. So, let's find an example. This one has this kind of sound. And then you can hear that it completely changed to a new section. I mean, it's not completely changed, because I'm using the same... I should probably talk without the music on. So, you can tell that I've moved on to a different section here. I have this section that builds up. We have the chords. Then we have a counter harmony, which is just chords playing like dun 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 dun. And then we have drums. So the counter harmony and the drums come in together. And then we have the bass, which is 2 octaves. I just doubled it up. And it's just like the donina, donina, which is just chords again. I do a lot of chords in this song, but it's okay. It sounds good. So that's what matters. Good is subjective. Now that I've created, you know, my A section, I feel like this is a good place to leave off. Like right here, you see where I'm like, ooh, I like now. I want it to stop now. I want it to change to something completely new. Completely new. I want it to change to something. I like this underlying chord progression I've come up with. And so I've decided I'm just going to stick with it. Just going to keep it through. Because it's nice to have an underlying thing that stays. If to each new section you just completely change, there's nothing similar to the previous section, it's a little jarring. Maybe that's what you're going for. Maybe that's not. Sometimes the only thing that's similar is just the sounds I'm using, or just one sound I'm using. You know, it doesn't matter, as long as there's something to hold the 2 sections together. Okay, so, you know, in this case, I'm keeping the chords from the first section to the second section. I've decided, okay, I'm moving on to maybe a different verse, or maybe the chorus, or I don't know. But I'm moving on to something. And so I've decided I'm going to kind of throw... I do the same process again that I talked about earlier, where I find, okay, I have my chords already because it's the same chords, but maybe a different melody this time, or in this case, a different, I guess, melody, because it's the arpeggiation of, you know, notes. And so in this case, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm just going to get rid of all the other stuff. I don't want to keep layering it, because it's just going to sound like the same section again and again. I'm going to drop things down again. You'll often see that's what music does. It starts low, it builds, and then it goes down again, and then it builds, then it goes down again, then it builds, and then it goes down again, and then it builds, and it keeps repeating that process. So in this case, I do the same thing. I start a new section, it's just the chords and a melody this time. And then I'm going to add the drums in. I'm going to sprinkle this in, and in this case, it's a very short next section. It's just 2 loops. So I go from this... I go from that to this. So you can tell I've started another section. So this is the 3rd section. And in this section, the only thing that's staying the same is like what I said earlier with some of my sections. The only thing is the sound. I'm keeping the same chord sound, the West Coast lead or whatever this is, but I'm changing the chords up just a little bit. It's the same chord, but a different melody on top, and then a different chord with a melody on top. It's similar. So there's also, not only is the sound similar, but also like the rhythm and some of the chords are similar, but I'm changing it to something else. So it's different in its own sense. And so I just keep repeating this process. I add a new section, I add a new section. You don't want to keep doing this until you get, 12 different sections. Each one's different than the other, because eventually you want the song to come back to to something familiar. Something that like, oh, I remember this. Oh, this is like the first section and the second section combined. So maybe, you take this first section and this second section, this third section, and at the very end, you add the three together. And then, along the way, you're just like mixing and matching and sprinkling together until you hit this final moment where everything comes together. So, you could build your song around, this is very weird, but you could have the climax right at the very beginning and have the entire song just a falling action, kind of like a story plot where you have the climax and the falling action. Yeah. There's a resemblance. Or you could have it climax in the middle. It just builds and then decays. But you want the climax of your song towards the end. You want it to be like that final section where everything comes together. That's normally how I do it. It's very similar, actually, to a story plot diagram, which is interesting. Okay, so anyways, we have this. Now, we have our sections, and we have the ending, and we've have this section that dies off. Normally when I'm doing that here, I'll show you what the ending is. It's the combination of the first two sections. I haven't finished the third section, and I haven't like extended it with some middle sections that sprinkle things together. But what I have done is I have this final section that is the first two sections put together. So this is what it sounds like. So yeah, as you can see, it's got that beginning section, but it has that arpeggiation underneath. And so it's a lot more intense than the other two sections were on their own. Even if the first one was really loud and the second one was also really loud, the two together are always going to be more intense and even larger. So, to finish out the song, I need something to decay away. So maybe I just slowly pick off tracks. I just like, okay, this one stops looping, okay, this one stops looping. Or I can start it how I started at the beginning, which is a similar thing, where I just slowly cut off tracks. But the beginning was just, I normally do this. The beginning started out with just chords. So for my ending, once all of this is done, they all cut off, and it's just the chords from the beginning again. So it sounds like this. Oops. It cuts off there because I didn't make the song long enough, or maybe I didn't loop it enough. So I think you get my point. I'm just trying to illustrate how I go about making a song. Once I have done this, once I have created all of this stuff that I'm going to, I've created a decent length of a song, I normally start writing lyrics and singing a melody that will be for the lyrics. So I might already have melodies in here, but I'm going to go on top of them and sing something. So, I originally just didn't like singing, so I would just leave it like with the melody as the melody. But now that I've become more comfortable with my voice a little bit, I'm okay with singing on top of the track. So the melody now becomes a counter melody. Or if I had two melodies in my other songs before I started singing, one of the melodies would now become my voice. Something along those lines. So, if you're comfortable with singing, or you want to add singing to your track, this is how I would go about doing it. You've basically learned how I do the other part of the song, so I would do that. I've created the whole song, and now I need a melody, or maybe I need lyrics. I normally come up with the melody first, and then I shift the melody to fit the lyrics. You can do it both ways. I normally have a idea in mind, like, this song is gonna be about rainbows and butterflies. This song is gonna be about space. This song is gonna be about something, you know, just something. I think of something that I want this song to be about. A lot of times, when I'm trying to come up with an idea for a song, or a theme for a song, like what do I want my song to be, I think of an experience. So, for example, maybe it's raining one day. It's raining outside, and I hear this police siren in the distance, just very faint, coming and then going. And that might be inspiring to me. It's like, it's a very eerie, sad moment that's inspiring me. Maybe I want to talk about what kind of emotions it gives me, what kind of experience that gives me, or what kind of ways I feel when it's raining. You know, it sounds generic because, you know, everyone sings about rain or sings about love or things along those lines. But I come up with an experience. Maybe I'm staring up at the sky and I go, man, I really want to sing about how I wish I could touch clouds. Or I want to sing about this moment exactly, like the time I went to the park and I sat down on a bench with my friends and I did this and this and this. And I don't sing it like, I went to the park with my friend and I stared up at the clouds. You know, I don't sing like that, but I hint at it. I try to create this this image. I try to express this experience or image with my lyrics. So that's normally how I come up with a theme. So once I have that theme, I'm pretty much ready. You know, I can do the melody before the theme. Normally you want to know your theme before you're creating the music, because like at the very beginning, in fact, it would have been helpful to put that at the beginning of the video. But the point is, you know, you have this theme, like, oh, I'm trying to capture that one time I was staring up at the stars at night and I saw a shooting star, and it made me wonder, like, where is everyone else? You know, what is everyone else doing? Are they staring at the shooting star? You know, so I don't know. You know, that would be a really great song idea. Maybe I should do that. I feel like it's probably already been done. Everything you create may not be perfectly original, but that's okay as long as you came up with it on your own. And it has meaning to you and you personally. Yeah. Because if you're creating something and it's like, oh, I came up with this melody and I came up with these lyrics, like nobody else came up with these lyrics. Somebody might have similar lyrics. Somebody might have this same line in their song. I didn't intentionally copy from them, because that would be plagiarism. But, you know, everybody's singing about the same things. Eventually something's going to get repeated. But the point is that you tried to make it original. You weren't looking for other people's lyrics. You came up with your own stuff. So that's what I do. I came up with a theme. Let's say, you know what, let's listen to this and think of what theme you get from this, because I should have started out with a theme before I made the music, but that is okay, because I often do not do that. I break my own rules. So maybe, you know, it's summer right now, so maybe I think, you know, this song reminds me of just like the last day of school. I'm finally free. So then I might call this song Last Day of School. Normally when I put a title to a song, that's when I've like settled on a theme. I'm like, cool, I know what I'm making now, even though I had no idea what I was doing at the beginning. So now that I've come up with a title, maybe Last Day of School, I don't know, that's not the best title, but, you know, I'll think about it, you know. Or maybe it is the best title. I have my theme. Maybe it's an experience, like the last day of school is an experience, you know, like, oh, I remember that last class, I was finally done. I don't normally sing or write lyrics about what literally happened. Point is, when you're creating lyrics, you can create a very literal story. You can, like, just sing about a story. That's perfectly fine. But you can also do what I do, which is more like hinting at what the story is. like for my one song, Pink Sunshine, which is now on SoundCloud. Check it out, please. Link will be in the description. For that one song, I saw this picture that I took on my band spring trip, and I was like, it's very inspiring. And I remember this moment. It was very happy. And when I was creating that song, I was like, man, I feel so stuck with responsibility. Like I feel like I'm procrastinating everything I do, but it has to get done. And yet I wish I could just be somewhere where responsibility doesn't matter. Like on spring trip. Well, I mean, obviously we can't just do whatever, but my point is, like, I'm picturing like this beach and we're just like hanging with my friends. I wish I could be there instead of dealing with responsibilities and stuff like that. So that's where the idea for that song came from. And the picture that I had worked perfectly with it. I was like, this perfectly sums up like where I'm picturing myself, where I want to be. So I ended up calling it Pink Sunshine because I was like, oh, I really like the imagery of like the sunset, but it's like clouds are pink. And I could never capture that on my phone, you know. It was just like it never captured. So I just altered the photo to be like pinker, you know. I just like adjusted the colors, made it a little more pink, but it better illustrated what I was trying to get across. I was like, oh, I really love this pink sky and this orange, you know, these orange clouds, and this orange sunset. You know, I just like the colors came across in my head as very vivid. And so I was like, I'm inspired. Time to write some lyrics about this. So now that I've done, you know, now that I did that in that song, I took all of that and I took all that knowledge that I had, this idea. I almost create like a planning board of like, okay, this is the image I'm going to use for my thing. This is the title of my song. This is the theme I'm going for. This is the experience I had that inspired me. You know, these other photos also inspire me. These words inspire me. Dude, I don't know why, but like for some reason when I heard pink, like I wanted pink in the title of that song. I was like, I want pink in the title of this song because it perfectly captures like just this like perfect paradise to me. I get off track a lot. Basically, this is going to be the longest section, the lyrics part, because it's quite difficult. It's not an easy thing. This is the time I spend the most time I spend on one thing. I sometimes just keep going over and over, singing hours on end, trying to find what melody and lyrics work together. Because you might come up with a really great melody with a really cool rhythm, but the rhythm just doesn't fit anything that you can come up with. And also, rhyming dictionaries online are your friend. So for example, I knew one of the last lines in Pink Sunshine was going to be, I want to play in Pink Sunshine, because, you know, I don't want to be here, I want to play in Pink Sunshine. That was the theme I was going for. So the question became, what should I rhyme with Pink Sunshine? And I look up the list of words that rhyme with Pink Sunshine, find a bunch of different words, and I'm like, mine. That one really stands out to me. I can use that in a sentence, mine, because this is special to me. This is a special feeling. I'm feeling like I'm procrastinating. I'm feeling overburdened with responsibility. You know, other people have this feeling too, but this is a unique story I'm trying to tell. And so I was like, okay, I want to play in Pink Sunshine. I wish all of this time was mine. That works pretty well. And then it became a lyric. And so a lot of the times I'm just thinking of like lines that I might want to include. Like maybe I want to talk about how it's basically a paradise. And so I started with, you know, like, when I'm living in paradise, the sun sets and the stars rise. I was like, I like that. And I just kind of repeat. I just kind of come up with lyrics, come up with words, come up with rhymes, and then eventually I go, okay, now I need to put this to a melody. Normally as I'm playing this, I'll be singing like, ba-da-da-da, ba-da-do-da-do, da-da-do-do-do, ba-da-do-do. our friends. You know, just something like that. I come up with that melody, and then I'm like, okay, what words fit with this? It takes a very long time. Very long time. I don't know what this hand motion is for, but it takes a very long time for me to finally get all the lyrics to sound natural. For example, if you're singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat, is that the name of the song? I'm just going to go with it. If you're singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat, you don't want to go row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. It just doesn't flow very well. But if you sing it more, you know, with more of a flow with the melody, so row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, you have this much easier arc with the melody. It sounds a lot better. That's not saying that, like, you can't have the melody from earlier, which wasn't that good because I didn't hit a lot of notes. You can have that melody, but it just needs to fit with the lyrics. A very flowing sentence, you don't want to just like chop it up with the melody. In this case, I need to find something that works together. So I kind of just like sung some random stuff there. I don't know. I came up with like year, fear, dear, here. Like, I don't really want to be here. I am tired of this year. I don't know. That could work. I was thinking, you know, like last day of school. I was kind of thinking that. So I tried to sing that here. And I came up with that, and I'm go, okay, cool, that's cool. I'm going to write that down. Do not forget to write it down. I open the notepad normally on GarageBand. It's not the easiest. Sometimes I just use my phone, but that's recording right now. On GarageBand iOS, you can't like be in the notepad and be on the screen. They don't work together. So it's easier to do it on my phone. But I'll just write like lyrics and then, you know, verse. I don't actually know if this is going to be a verse. I don't know what this is going to be, but I came up with, you know, I don't really want to be here. I don't really want to be here. I am glad this is the end of the year. Like I said, it takes me a while to come up with the lyrics. And those will not stay. Those will change so many times until I get them. Because, like, even when I'm singing that, I don't really want to be here, I feel like I'm landing on the B for way too long. And I don't necessarily want, you know, why am I accenting be here? It sounds okay. It sounds good, actually. But, like, sometimes I'll be like, I just want to change that up. I want to add more syllables into this line. I want to take away syllables so the melody's easier. Because I could just do, I don't want to be here. You know, I take out really. You know, sometimes that's... In fact, there are some words that you're not supposed to add into songs because it's like, they just get repetitive. Everybody uses them. They're just adjectives. They're just adverbs. Everybody uses them. Really is probably one of them. I don't know. You can look that up too. There's a bunch of rules in music that you're allowed to break. I break all of them, probably. But anyways, point is, I find my lyrics, find my melody, figure out the lyrics I want all the way through. In order to, so normally I think of it...
I normally think of it like verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Yeah, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. Yeah, that's how I would think of it. Verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus.
Let's just go with that for this song. So if I'm doing that, the verses will all be unique, but they have a similar style to each other. So section 1, if section 1 is a verse, then I want section 3, which is also a verse, to sound pretty much the same. It's just the lyrics that are different. If section 2 is a chorus, section 5, which is also the chorus, can sound, should sound very similar, but it also doesn't have to just be that. The chorus, normally I'll add stuff as we go. So like the first chorus is just these two. Now it's these two plus some of the instruments in the first section. Now it's all the all of the stuff, all of the tracks. It just depends on how you want to do it. The chorus will always be the same. Like in Pink Sunshine, it was like, I wanna play in pink sunshine. I wish all of this time was mine. I wanna play in pink sunshine. I wish the sky above was mine. That was always the chorus. Like the chorus is like, oh, this is the part where, this is the main part of the song. This is the part where it's like, this is what the song is summed up in. So the verses, I normally kind of like add more detail. The verses is where I add detail. The chorus is where I just, is the sum of the song, the title of the song maybe. Although you don't always want to, you know, just, the title of the song doesn't have to be the chorus. Like, you know, like if my song is this one and the chorus is, I'm so glad it's the last day of school. I'm so glad it's the last day of school. I don't have to call the song Last Day of School. It just has to thematically match, I guess. In general, that's how I create lyrics to a song. So, I think that sums it up for right now. I think that's all I have. There is a lot more to this. There's a lot, like in fact, I'm just going to cover this quickly. In settings, you can go to, and by the way, I don't always work in iOS GarageBand, but it's quite easy. Shoot me for not, using more expensive software. You don't have to. Nobody has to. Nobody has to. In fact, you can record everything you need on your phone. Most people have a phone, or if you only have a computer. It's just like whatever you have, you can use that. In fact, I didn't even use this thing over here. Like, I didn't use that piano. I only used that one. I barely used it. I mostly just play on my iPad. It's just like, you don't need all this stuff. What I'm getting at, though, is when you're done with a song, you have just a few more things to add. As I'm going, sometimes I do this, because it's easier, because you're like, oh, I already know what I want this to be. I already know. And what I'm talking about is the mixing and the panning and all of that, and the volume. You definitely want to be adjusting the volume as you go. So as you go, you want to make sure you can hear all the tracks. It's okay for some of the tracks to get slightly washed over, because when you have this many all at once, you're not going to hear every single one at every single instant. I'm pretty sure that's impossible for the human mind to just listen to all of them all at the same time. But what you're hearing is more like a collective, this is the noise that's coming into my ear. And so it's okay, as long as you can generally hear them at certain points. Like if you try to listen for that one track, oh, I can hear it. If things are just completely like gone, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just have so many tracks that you just can't hear things. That's okay. I try to avoid it because I'm like, what's the point of putting that track there? Maybe it just adds noise to it. I don't know. But yeah, make sure you're adjusting the volume as you go. The other thing, panning. You don't have to pan, although it makes it easier to hear certain tracks. Like if you're having the problem with things washing over each other, maybe you just need to pan things around. Which, when I talk about that, I'm talking about, they have this little dragging thing, which is track pan. And it's, it either pushes it towards your right headphone or toward your left headphone, or right speaker and left speaker. Whichever one you want to look at it as. But the point is, like, if you have, normally I keep my chords in the center. I keep important things in the center, like I don't change it. But if it's like counter melody and counter harmony, I can have those coming out of two ears. Or I can have, like, if I have two of the tracks just octaves apart, I could do higher octave, lower octave. And I might put those even further back than the counter melody and the harmony, because they're even less important. It's like, you just have to think about where you want to put them. Vocals I normally keep in the middle, unless you're doing like an echoey reverb thing where you put them from all directions. It just kind of depends. As you're going, you might be adding reverb, or at the very end you might be adding reverb. It kind of just depends. I didn't really go into, you know, how I go about recording my voice. I mean, there's a picture on my Instagram of me using this light right here, just like curled up with my headphones, my Apple headphones, just wrapped around the coil, just like plugged into my iPad, recording. It looks kind of ridiculous, but it's like the cheap way to do it, and it ended up sounding really good. And I was like, finally, something that actually sounds good, because I've been trying to use these headphones and they didn't really work, and then I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, you don't really need expensive stuff, although I say that and I have an iPad and a MacBook next to me. Yeah, I guess I'll cover a lot more in like another video. Like I want to go through all of that song I just released, Pink Sunshine. Check it out. Link in the description, hopefully, if I'm smart enough to remember. But yeah, I didn't cover a lot of things. So hopefully I'll just go through an entire completed song and explain how I got there, or explain what everything is, or just show you like behind the scenes of a song. Or maybe it's kind of hard. Like I wanted to create a song on video, but it's a lot easier to just explain what I do after it's done, if that makes sense. Like I can't really think about what I'm doing and do it at the same time with music, because normally it's very just inspiration based. A lot of my writing music is either like really early in the morning when I'm like, oh dude, I just came up with an idea, I gotta get out of bed, I gotta start writing, and then I go to my iPad and I just start coming up with stuff. Or like, oh, that song last night, I was almost done, I think I might have something, and then I go do it. Or it's late at night where it's, you know, 11, 12, 1, and I'm like, I'm really feeling this song, let's keep going, let's keep making it, let's finish this song out. Yeah. Well, that's all I have for you guys today, so I hope you enjoyed. It's probably going to be a long video, and I apologize. I talk a lot. I talk in circles. I should have planned this out better. So maybe we'll do that for the next episode, next video. Yeah. Cool. Bye.